Hey everybody, this is Talkative Carl back again for another YouTube tier ranking. Something I've been toying around with. I say, like, what's the next YouTube tier ranking that I really want to do? And I figure after the Doctor Strange 2 trailer with that hint at Professor Xavier, I'm thinking like, okay, I want to see, like, I want to do like a ranking of all 13 of the X-Men films or X-Men related films and rank them from best to worst in my personal opinion. And I want to be able to show you guys what I will rank them. So yeah, I got them all full display. So here we go. So we got, of course, all 13 here, but not in order. But got Deadpool 1 and 2, Logan, New Mutants, the Wolverine, X-Men First Class, Dark Phoenix, X2, X-Men Apocalypse, X-Men Days of Future Past, X-Men Last Stand, X-Men Origins Wolverine, and the X-Men. So of course, when we go try to get it in order as possible. So of course we got to start off with the first one, X-Men. And boy howdy did this movie blew up in the early 2000s. I think just like a year prior to the first Spider-Man film. It really set the stage. I mean, like, this is around the time, this is a little bit after the Matrix. I think the Matrix kind of like, not only the first Matrix was good, but it also had like a bad lesson that Hollywood learned from it. It's just, once something is popular, everything has to be just like that. Just like after Batman Begins and Dark Knight, every movie has to be dark and grounded moving forward. So that's why it took so long before we got colorful X-Men, because their costumes are colorful. But for a time, it's like everybody got this black leather crap. But it didn't negate the fact that how good the first X-Men movie was. And the bulk of it, the X-Men Fox stuff was fine, and did a few exceptionally well stuff, but this thing more so crap than you realize. But X-Men, the first one, because the whole black leather crap, I could not put it in the S tier, but I want to put it in A tier. It has to be in A tier because it set the stage for what we eventually got, but it really set the stage. But as X2, to this day, everybody raves about the opening with Nightcrawler, and Alan Cummings' Nightcrawler is probably like the best Nightcrawler that we have. I mean, of course, the 90s TV show had a couple of episodes with Nightcrawler, but not enough to allow him to be like a mainstay of the cast. But we feel like we was getting on track with like with having getting closer and closer to like the 90s X-Men. And a lot of people complain about Halle Berry's Storm. I think she got a little bit better as it went on, but it didn't really like seal the deal for a lot of people. I mean, over time we grew to appreciate it. I mean, like, we didn't hate it, but it's just like the first movie had that terrible African accent because Aurora Monroe is a Kenyan African. And in the comics, she marries Black Panther, and they were married for a little while. I mean, not in a little while, it was a good long period while they was married. But current comics, they're not together anymore, but they had like still got feelings. But like everything involved in X2, I kind of wish. I mean, I think I'm in the minority in this, where I think James Marsden is probably like the most spot-on Cyclops, especially with the visor. They kind of accentuate the face and the jawline. Like, I see Cyclops And I mean, I did mention it, you know, I brought up X-Men, the first movie, where that scene where it's like in that train station, that little boy is just like smiling up at him, just, you know, just an innocent human kid who interacting with this person. He doesn't see a mutant, he sees like a person. He's just like just a kid, this innocent kid, and then the parent just yank him away, like, hey, what I tell you about talking about, you know, talking to strangers. Woo woo. And people shit on James Marsden as Cyclops. I think the entire movie and director kind of shit on Cyclops because eventually they kind of focus on Wolverine for the bulk of this franchise stuff, either Wolverine or Magneto and Professor X. You would think like the first movie is kind of like focus on X-Men and Rogue, and it kind of like made Rogue the Jubilee instead of casting Jubilee. You see Jubilee and other stuff later, but not Jubilee as we know it, and they don't really give her a shine like that. Check out my video about like how would I make a Jubilee live action film. Is up on the channel. Just leave a like, comment, subscribe, show your support, and definitely hit that smash that like button. Check it out, the video. You know, that kind of support is just greatly appreciated. But you'll think like the preceding movies moving forward, you'll get like certain movies focusing on another X-Men. It's kind of like the 90s movie, I mean not the 90s TV show, where it's like it's not always focused on Wolverine. You get, it's like a soap opera, you always, you know, get certain things that focus on Jean. So some movies, some episodes focus on Cyclops. Even with like X-Men Evolution and there's like another X-Men TV show, X-Men and the Wolverine and the X-Men. And it's like even with all those three iterations of X-Men, which are great, in I want to put them on this list too, but I'm focusing on the movie, so I can't really add them to the list. But if I did, I'll put all three of them on the S tier because they're all really good. But each one of those, because they had the benefit of being a show, so of course like they had the benefit of focusing on different characters and not just the same one. But even still, you get all these movies except for Deadpool. You got all these other movies and New Mutants, and then like of course like the Wolverine centered movies like Logan and the Wolverine. But these other movies, you got, you know, this team, and you got like the first one can be focused on, or at least the second one could heavily be focused on Wolverine, but the original X-Men can be focused on like just like you get a certain taste of like, you know, what the X-Men are, but you focus on Rogue because she's the eyes into this world. But then you got other stuff that could be focused on Cyclops, give him his, you know, just due one, and so on from there. But they didn't do that. They kind of just like saw a gold mine with Hugh Jackman and they just mined that to hell. But like I'm rambling, but X2 is S tier. It's phenomenal. And I might be in a minority in this, but I'm gonna mention it once we get to it. But Liv Schreiber's Sabretooth is the better Sabretooth. I'm gonna put it out there because we got the only other Sabretooth we seen was in the first X-Men movie, and it's like he didn't say much, and it's like he might have slightly looked the part, but it's like there was no depth to the character. You don't get like a feel of like any kind of like they kind of hinted at it, or at least they expect you to know from the TV show that Wolverine and Sabretooth have like a grudge with each other or bitter enemies. But at the very least with X-Men Origins Wolverine, it's a little bit more understood of why they were in, you know, are at each other's throats. It was like you expect it to be. And Liv Schreiber is like, you know, a great actor, and he really fleshed out Sabretooth. And I always, in my mind, picture Sabretooth as him. But X3, I think over time we kind of appreciated X3, but when it came out, I mean, even to this day, somewhat still like it's bad, but not as bad as like other stuff that came after it, which is kind of saying something. Because at least you get like certain things where you get, you know, Angel, and yet like Beast, like the best version of like Kelsey Grammer's live action Beast is still great. It kind of like really like there's no other person that could have played. Well, you get another person playing Beast in like the First Class stuff, sure, but I think everybody's in consensus think that Kelsey Grammer's version of Beast is like the better Beast, a very spot on Beast, especially with his unique gravitas of a voice. Really highlights that is Beast. That's how you expect Beast to talk. And you can tell Kelsey Grammer was having fun playing as Beast. And you get to see like Magneto really strut his stuff with using magnetic his powers to lift up the Golden Gate Bridge and stuff like that. It's still awesome. And I still kind of quote the line, the pawns go first. So it really shows him what a asshole he is. I didn't mention X2. You get like you get awesome villains in that. It's just like Stryker with Brian Cox, and then you get to see like an awesome PG-13ish, but the closest to R as you can get with the soldiers infiltrating the X Mansion and Wolverine just going berserk and killing all these dudes, and just like that's just phenomenal. But X3 is like a very downgrade, especially with like. You get to this is the first time you get to see that they don't know what to do with Jean Grey. You expect her to be like this awesome Phoenix, and they kind of really overplay this Phoenix plot line in several iterations of this stuff. But given the fact that time went by and like we got other stuff that came after it that's like really is like an even further downgrade by comparison, I would give this an even C, just for the stuff that I mentioned. But beyond that, it's just like it's just like still not good. It's just it grew to the point of being okay. Then we eventually got X-Men Origins Wolverine, which is supposed to have been like a setup for like different origin movies. Like it's supposed to have been like a origin Magneto movie, but that never came to light. But because this tank's so doggone bad, and the CGI to the claws, even after the first 3 X-Men films, you would expect them to be on point with the claws, but you see like certain shots of it being like very CGI heavy on the claws. It's very takes you out of it. And you get like the best part with like I said, Liv Schreiber is like really make Sabretooth. But you get to see Wade Wilson, Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool shredded stuff. In the first 10 minutes of this is probably the best part. But after that, it's hit and miss. You get like a Gambit in this, which everybody was looking forward to see Remy LeBeau in these properties, but didn't do it very good. Well, it's not the actor's fault, but they just didn't really, flesh out that character well. You get the Blob. They didn't flesh that out very well. It's kind of like, and I don't want to say half-assed, but everybody was doing their darndest. But man, it's like it was just like subpar. It's still subpar to this day, even to the point where like Ryan Reynolds to this day, aside from Green Lantern, he hated this film and what they did to this character, because that's why he worked so hard to bring Deadpool back to his true form that we all love now. And I gotta give X-Men Origins Wolverine an F still, because it's still terrible. We could have gotten a lot of good origin films with other characters. They could have give other characters more shine that didn't have nothing to do with Wolverine. But because how this tank's so bad, they kind of nixed a lot of stuff. Then eventually we got like the rebooted X-Men with like a younger version of the cast with like James McAvoy. Aside from Patrick Stewart, James McAvoy really highlighted at least like a good young Professor Xavier, as well as like Michael Fassbender as a young Magneto. You could actually look at these guys and say like, yeah, these would be young Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen. I mean, like, everybody loved X-Men First Class. They rave about it. I thought it was pretty good too, but it's not like my favorite X-Men personally. But at least they finally added some colors to their costumes and, like, you know, set something up, like a nice soft reboot of the X-Men franchise. Didn't love it, but it was like a nice palate cleanser, and I give it like a good B. Then we got like the mega star, to this day probably like the best X-Men movie, and it's like you think it was gonna be like on the right track. They finally got it. X-Men Days of Future Past, man, it was so good. A lot of people watched this a couple times in the theater. It's been a while since I revisited this, but I love this film. And it's like, oh my god, they finally got on the right track with sending Wolverine back in time and, like, you know, stopping these fancy Sentinels from utilizing, you know, Bubble Out Trash, utilizing Mystique's powers to make the Sentinels change form or adapt to any mutant power and cause them to wreak havoc in the future, to cause decimation with not only mutants but humans as well. Everything involved was so on point. Even with, like, they added like the Rogue cut, so you know what Rogue was doing during the middle of all this. It was, everything about this is like phenomenal. So obviously this is S tier. To this day I consider like top X-Men. Even past like X2, and that's saying a lot. But then it's like a massive downgrade, which is like a shame, which is like, I don't know what the hell happened, like what certain decisions was being made behind the scenes. What the hell? But then you got like Apocalypse, where to this day the only good scene was the Quicksilver scene. And you get a certain Quicksilver scene in like First Class as well, but you only get like a moment with him, because you know, Fox and Marvel Disney had like a thing where it's like they both had the rights to Quicksilver and Wanda, and it's like, you know, they didn't want to share, so they figured like, okay, Disney, Marvel, you get Scarlet Witch, and Fox get Quicksilver at that time. So that's why, like, you want to know the behind the scenes reason why they killed off Quicksilver in Avengers 2. That is why, you know, killed them off. So, you know, at the time they didn't worry about that, so they just split the twins up. Now, you know, Marvel Disney got both, which that's why I still find it upsetting that in WandaVision you got like this awesome, you brought back the same guy who played Quicksilver in these X-Men Fox properties, and it's like, okay, you're finally doing it, you're bringing it all together, perfect opportunity. But then you boner the dude, and it's like, if you're gonna do, I've said this many times, if you're gonna do this, don't cast a guy that we all know. Just cast some nameless dude to play as Quicksilver, so that way we know this is, you know, this whole thing is full of shit, and it's obviously being, Moana's obviously being toyed with here, because that's not her brother, but she thinks it's her brother by some kind of magic manipulation. It's like a huge troll move. But in this one, I think it has a better Quicksilver scene with Sweet Dreams playing as, like, still, like, to this day, the best part of this film, as Quicksilver showing up to the X Mansion as it's about to be blown up, and he's going there and just rescuing everybody in hyper speed, and just the whole thing is just awesome. All the while, within like the minute the house is about to be blown up, he's saving everybody within that minute, and it's so good. But unfortunately, it's still not good enough to warrant like any high enough rating than maybe D, and only being generous with that because of that Quicksilver scene. Then you got Dark Phoenix. I was gonna cut it short here. We all know F. It was and this is right after and during the filming of this, everybody knew that, like, at least had an inkling that Disney's gonna buy off Fox, because like Fox was getting rid of a lot of stuff, and they figured like, okay, Disney's gonna give it to Disney. Why? Who else are they gonna give it to with these Marvel properties but Disney? Because, like, you know, Fox is, you know, relinquishing a lot of assets, and it's like they're not gonna be like a movie people anymore. But man, this is like, and of course, like, you got the Hunger Games woman, I forgot her doggone name, Jennifer something. She was already, like, you can tell she was already mentally checked out, and she figured like, okay, I just gotta get through half of this film, or at least less than half of this film, kill me off so I don't have to wear this blue makeup and move the heck on. Obviously, you can tell she was in that mindset, which kind of, you know, not that it's just like, if you so obvious with it, then it kind of sucks, you know, people down further. They're not going to enjoy it because we all know you're not enjoying it. You don't have to enjoy it, but you sign up for it. You're going to do one last ride. You better make it like a hell of a ride on your way out at the very least. But man, it's like everybody, you know, behind the scenes involved with like the writing and directing, it seems like very like, it's like you're just pretty much, you know, like wasting time. Just might as well not have even bothered making this film. I seen highlights of New Mutants. I never watched New Mutants because I knew it was gonna suck. I didn't bother with it. I've not even read any New Mutants comics. I'm aware of them, but it's not like something. I read more X-Force than I did New Mutants. But I knew it was gonna suck because, like, they kept putting it off for years, and it's like they got some kind of ghost bear or some crap. I seen the highlights, so it's like, yeah, I knew it was gonna suck. Another F. It could have, you know, it could have done something, but it's like I said, it's like still around the time when it was, you know, relinquishing, and Fox was relinquishing a lot of his assets. But man, the Wolverine, this is tough because I didn't hate it. It's definitely way like they learned from Origins Wolverine and they stepped it up and set him in Japan, his time in Japan and everything like that, fighting the Silver Samurai, even though he looked more like Shredder than Silver Samurai, or, well, technically the Shredder, because Michael Bay's Ninja Turtles came out after this, so technically he was kind of ripping off this movie. But even still, this wasn't like the Silver Samurai. It seemed like a Silver Samurai mech more so than anything else. But still pretty cool, especially with Wolverine fighting on top of a bullet train and everything like that. It's still fun. Still like a massive step up from Origins Wolverine. But I'll give it like a C. Just middle of the road, still alright-ish. Logan, boy, it has a lot of people chalked up to this day. Old Man Logan is just like a different retelling of the Old Man Logan storyline, because in the comics it's like a different universe with the where like all the villains work together to systematically you know, kill off a lot of heroes, and somebody mess with Wolverine's, well, in the comics they mess with Wolverine's mind and cause him to kill a lot of the X-Men, but in this one it's kind of like with Xavier getting older and is getting more senile and his powers going out of whack at the same time, caused the death of a lot of the X-Men, and Wolverine was the only one left because of his healing powers, and so he's the only one left to take care of Xavier. And you get to see like Laura Kinney, aka X-23, Wolverine's daughter in this, kind of clone too, because in the comics she's a clone, but kind of de facto daughter. And she is awesome in this, and she obviously didn't taking after him, takes no gruff from him, and literally she's speaking in Spanish, he doesn't understand, but I'm thinking to myself, you live over 100 years, nearly 200 years, and you didn't pick up any Spanish. You know a fair bit of Japanese, you didn't pick up Spanish along the way. It's like, if you're immortal, you will think you will set some time out to learn how to speak other languages very fluently, and you'll think he would know Spanish to understand this girl who speaks, you know, just distinct Spanish, specifically Spanish. But it's like an awesome one where she literally punches him right in the freaking face. It's like, she's just like, bah! It's like right in his doggone face. And like, rarely anybody does that to Wolverine without, you know, suffering any kind of consequences. But man, but there's sorrow moments here, especially with death of, like, you know, Professor X, and like a lot of deaths being caused inadvertently by Wolverine, with all these agents going after him, and it was just like intense all the way. But I want to give this an S tier. This definitely deserves S tier. It's still highly regarded. Then we're in like the these two are obviously phenomenal, but I just went over my spoiler review for the first Deadpool movie, which you can find on my channel. I just posted for the Valentine's Day movie review, and you can check out my spoiler review and my thoughts on Deadpool. But honestly, obviously, it's a phenomenal film. It broke, you know, records all across the board, like, you know, just billions of dollars, and just sat in that, you know, top spot for weeks on end. It's like breaking all kinds of records, and it's like, this is how Deadpool is supposed to be. And thanks to Ryan Reynolds for working so hard for making sure we get this. So obviously this deserves S tier. And Deadpool 2, finally, the final one. It's fun, you know, Ryan Reynolds with Josh Brolin. To this day, I wince at like Deadpool, his baby legs, and he does that, what is it, Cruel Intentions or something like that with Michael Douglas movie, where he just, you know, crosses his legs like Demi Moore, and it's like, oh god, it's disgusting. It was so doggone funny. It's like, oh god, this movie is fun, and you get like, you know, accurate Juggernaut in this, and it's like, and you get like a cameo from the first class version of the X-Men. Oh, and I forgot to mention, like, you know, Days of Future Past, as Wolverine coming back to the present, you get to see like all these other X-Men that, you know, from the first 3 films reprise that role, you know, for the last time. Like, you get to see everybody back alive again, and it choked me up. Honestly, I didn't cry like I did with like Tom Holland's Spider-Man in all those films, but like this did get me choked up. It's like you get these guys one last time playing their older versions. Like, you know, you get James Marsden, Cyclops, I keep butchering or not remembering her name, but like Jean Grey back. You get like, you know, Halle Berry as Storm again, Kelsey Grammer as Beast, you know, Xavier, Pastor Stewart. It's like everything is like that made like the movie like just like a nice little bow at the end. But this one is like the most, you know, like, leave it to Ryan Reynolds to make sure we get like the most accurate version of mutants and the X-Men that we rarely got in the previous films. But not a lot of people thought it was as good as Deadpool 1, but it's still fun and still great. And I want to put it at the A-list. So this is my ranking of all like the X-Men related films. S tier, X2, Days of Future Past, Logan, and the first Deadpool movie. A tier, the first X-Men and Deadpool 2. B tier, X-Men First Class. C, X3 and the Wolverine. D, X-Men Apocalypse. And F tier, X-Men Origins Wolverine, Dark Phoenix, and New Mutants. So that is my ranking. I'm wondering, how would you guys rank all these X-Men films? And let me know in the comments below. And do you agree with my ranking, or is there anything you would have swapped around? And yeah, leave a comment below and let me know. Don't forget to smash that like button, show your support. I will see you guys next time for more tier lists down the road. I have a couple in mind, but I'll see if that works out. You know, we'll see. But yeah, see you guys. Take care.